Your cat is sitting in the window right now, sun on its face, tail curled around its paws, completely at peace. It has no idea it's going to die someday. You, on the other hand, can't get through a routine doctor's appointment without your mind sprinting 3 steps ahead to the worst version of every result. Both of you have a fully working fear system, built from the same basic mammalian blueprint. Only one of you is afraid of something that hasn't happened yet. And it's not because your cat is braver. Cats get scared plenty. The vacuum cleaner, the vet carrier, a strange cat crossing through the yard. Watch a cat in that moment and you'll see the same physical signature you'd see in a frightened human. Pupils blown wide, heart rate spiking, every muscle loaded to run or fight. That's your amygdala and your cat's firing off the exact same alarm because it's one of the oldest, least negotiable pieces of hardware any mammal carries. It doesn't care what species is running it. It exists for exactly one purpose: keep you alive in the next 10 seconds. Not next year, not someday, right now. So if the hardware is the same, something else has to explain the gap. And that something isn't in the fear circuit at all. It's in a completely different part of the brain, one that has almost nothing to do with fear on its own. Here's the thing that gets missed. Fearing death isn't really about fear. It's about time travel. To dread your own death, specifically, your brain has to be able to do something strange. It has to pull a version of you out of right now, drop that version somewhere in the future, and treat that imagined version as real enough to matter. Psychologists call this episodic future thinking. The late memory researcher Endel Tolving gave it a name that sounds almost poetic for a science term: chronesthesia, mental time travel. It's the same mental trick that lets you save money for a retirement you haven't lived yet, dread a Monday that's still 4 days away, or picture your own funeral in specific, uncomfortable detail. Most animals, even genuinely intelligent ones, live almost entirely bound to the present or the very near future. Your cat can absolutely remember that the carrier means the vet. It cannot sit in a sunbeam and spiral about the fact that one day, decades or hours from now, it will stop existing. There's no version of a future cat sitting inside its head for it to worry about. And that gap connects to something even stranger, something you can actually test. In the 1970s, a biologist named Gordon Gallup Jr. built what's now called the mirror test: mark an animal somewhere it can't normally see, like its forehead, without it feeling the mark happen, then show it a mirror. If it reaches up to touch the mark on its own body instead of swiping at the other animal in the glass, that's evidence it knows the reflection is itself. Great apes pass, elephants pass, dolphins pass, even magpies pass. Cats, by and large, do not. Most cats treat their own reflection as a stranger, or eventually just get bored of it, the same way you'd get bored of a picture on the wall that never does anything interesting. That's not stupidity. Self-recognition is a genuinely sophisticated ability. Human babies don't reliably pass this same test until somewhere around 15 to 18 months old. Before that age, you didn't recognize yourself either. Put those two things together and the picture gets clearer. To fear your own death, you first need a self, a continuous you that persists across time, the same one yesterday, today, and in 20 years. Then, you need the ability to project that self forward into a future you haven't reached yet. And then you need to understand that the future eventually, for certain, includes an ending. Your cat doesn't reliably have step 1. It has almost none of step 2, which means step 3, the actual dread, has nothing to attach itself to. It's not that your cat is at peace with death, it's that death, as an idea about a future version of itself, doesn't really exist for it at all. Sit with that for a second, because you do this constantly without noticing. You've pictured yourself old. You've pictured a version of you at a funeral, maybe your own. You've caught yourself mid-argument already rehearsing how you'll feel about it next week. None of that is normal for a mammal. It's a specific trick your brain runs so often you've stopped noticing it's a trick at all. Now, here's where this stops being a fun fact about cats and starts being about you. Here's what's actually running underneath that. You are the one animal built with a fierce, unshakable drive to survive, sitting right next to the absolute knowledge that survival is guaranteed to fail eventually. That contradiction doesn't cancel itself out. It generates a low hum of terror that never fully switches off, and most of what you'd call your own personality, your ambition, your need to be remembered, your instinct to build something that outlasts you, is quietly organized around managing that hum without ever having to feel it directly. This isn't just a theory someone made up to sound dark. An anthropologist named Ernest Becker described it first, back in 1973, and psychologists Jeff Greenberg, Tom Pischinsky, and Sheldon Solomon later built it into something testable called terror management theory. What Pischinsky found is that it takes exactly 3 things to switch this on inside you: the ability to think in symbols, the ability to think about the future, and the ability to see your own life as a story that belongs to you. Your cat is missing at least 2 of the 3. You're running all 3 all the time, mostly without noticing, which means that quiet background hum you sometimes feel, the one that shows up at 2 a.m. for no clear reason, or right after someone mentions a funeral, or when you're just lying still with nothing to distract you, isn't a malfunction. It's the exact same intelligence that lets you plan a future, keep a decade-old promise, or love someone you haven't met yet, pointed briefly at itself. To be fair to the cats, this doesn't mean they feel nothing when death shows up in their world. Surveys of multi-pet households have found that surviving cats often change noticeably after losing a companion animal, more vocal, more clingy, eating less, wandering back to the spot the other animal used to sleep. Something registers, something is disrupted. Watch it happen, and it looks unmistakably like grief. But that's mourning an absence they can perceive right now, not dread over an ending they're projecting onto themselves. A cat can miss a friend who is already gone. It cannot lie awake dreading a version of itself that doesn't exist yet. Even you weren't born with this. Developmental psychologists have found that children don't really grasp death, the real, adult version of it, permanent, universal, happening eventually to them specifically, until somewhere around age 5 to 7. Before that, kids will tell you a dead goldfish might wake up tomorrow if you just wait. The dread isn't something you arrive with. It gets installed later, the moment your brain finishes building the machinery to send a version of yourself into a future, far enough away to be frightening. So the next time you watch your cat sleep in a sunbeam, doing absolutely nothing, worried about absolutely nothing, resist the urge to envy it completely. That peace isn't wisdom. It's the simple absence of a very specific, very advanced piece of equipment, the same equipment that lets you love people across years you haven't lived yet, keep a promise made a decade ago, and grieve someone before you've even lost them. Your cat gets to skip the dread. It also never gets to do any of that. You got the whole terrifying package, the fear of the ending included, because it came bundled with everything else that makes a life feel like it's yours.